Mr. Chafee, your question, pick any candidate that you like.
Mr. Robitaille, sitting next to you here in the studio, it sounds like you're George W. Bush. And we're going to cut taxes, and it's going to get our economy going. Do you agree that that was a good idea to just go on a tax-cutting spree and bring back deficits that has caused the crash of this economy?
I agree that in Rhode Island, we need to do that. We have one of the highest tax burdens in the United States. We are losing college graduates. We're losing our seniors. We're losing our veterans. We're losing small business owners. And the number one reason is the oppressive tax climate we have in this state. If you can't see that, you're just going to add to that burden and drive more people out of the state, then I don't know what to tell you. But I can tell you this, that it has to happen, or else Rhode Island will never recover. We will never create the jobs that we need so desperately in this state.
Mr. Caprio, your question?
Yes,
absolutely.
My question was about George W. Bush and his tax-cutting program that brought back deficits and plunged this economy into recession.
You didn't vote for him either, by the way. You did not vote for him in 2004.
No, that's correct.
He wrote in his father's
because
name.
of irresponsible fiscal programs that brought back the biggest recession since the 30s. And I could see it coming. They could not cut spending. They couldn't do it. And they were cutting the revenue and brought back deficits, which we pay the interest on. That's the reason this economy crashed.
Mr. Robitaille?
I just totally disagree with Mr. Chafee.
Mr. Caprio, your question?
Yeah, quick question for Link Chafee. In Exeter, you own a very major and large portion of the town. Do you know how much you pay in property taxes there, and what tax breaks there might be in place?
No, I'm not involved in the our family financial, particularly my wife's financial business.
But you talk a lot about property taxes and how you want to hold the line on them, and this is one of your properties, and the size of it is, if it was overlaid over some of the cities or towns in Rhode Island, it's actually bigger than some of the cities and towns, but you have no idea what you pay in property taxes?
No, I don't. I'm not involved in any of our financial, particularly on my wife's side, business.
If I told you that...
I believe it's in a blind trust even.
But I'm talking about the property taxes. Most people listening today, they know exactly what they pay in property taxes because they're struggling to pay the bill.
No, I don't. Honest answer to your question, I don't. I'm not involved in the family business.
Mr. Block, your question?
Yeah, there's more than 100,000 people without jobs and significantly underemployed. And Link has repeatedly over the last 24 hours shown us no idea how he's going to put people back to work. So I'm not going to target the question to Link. John, my question to you is, what are you going to do proactively and aggressively, other than cutting taxes, to create jobs right away? I have a plan to put $250 million to work to bring jobs and businesses to this state. What are you going to do that are going to create jobs in the next 6 months?
Government does not create sustainable jobs, Ken, but one thing I am going to do is reorganize the Economic Development Corporation into two separate divisions. One would be to help retain existing businesses. The second would be to attract new businesses. I will become the Chief Marketing Officer for the state of Rhode Island, help promote Rhode Island, all of its benefits, all of its positives, all of its resources, to aggressively bring new businesses into Rhode Island. But I know for a fact that new businesses will not come into Rhode Island. We cannot create jobs if we continue to have an anti-business ranking in the state, in the United States. We are ranked 49th to 50th, day in and day out. No contrived government gimmick is going to result in sustainable public sector jobs, and that's what we need. We don't need gimmicks. We need fundamental blocking and tackling, cutting expenses, balancing the budget, fixing our roads and infrastructures, and making sure we have a tax climate here that's attractive to businesses.
Right. Your assumption is that you can get into the General Assembly and bend them to your will. We've seen that's been very difficult to do. In my opinion, we have to bring immediate stimulus, and we can do so by following my plan to bring investment capital dollars to bear and bring a lot of new jobs, tens of thousands of jobs that we can bring in by proactively spending that money. And if I would argue at this point, the governor's office has a responsibility to bring jobs. There's 100,000 people without work.
Mr. Robitaille, your opportunity to ask one of the candidates a question.
Sure.
The individual or everybody? Up to you.
Okay, sure. Thanks. Yeah, I would like to ask Mr. Chafee again. Link, can you name one or two things that you've ever cut out of a budget?
Of course. When I first came in as mayor, there was a vacancy in the fire department. The union controlled all but the chief and two deputies, and I did not fill the second deputy. There had been a retirement. And I went to court. The fire union sued me, saying that because they wanted the promotion, that would open up a battalion chief position. And we were in federal court. They sued on discrimination. I was discriminating against a battalion chief was next in line. And I won that case. I went to court to save that deputy chief position. Times were tough, I told the union. We cannot have two deputies. And I won the case.
Mr. Robitaille?
Well, that's not really a cut. I mean, that's just not filling a vacant position.
It is a cut. They wanted another deputy chief. That was expensive with pensions and benefits, and plus it opened up all down the chain, a new hire down the chain. That's what I did over and over again in the city of Warwick. That's just one example.
Mr. Chafee, your opportunity.
That was the first day.
Your opportunity to ask another question. Again, it could be everybody or any candidate that you like.
Again, I'll ask Mr. Robitaille for specifics. If your directors bring you, as I outlined, we're going to close Colt State Park, we're going to close Goddard State Park, we're going to have to release 500 prisoners, a nursing home's going to have to be closed with your 15% cuts. What's your next course of action?
I'm not saying I'm going to do any of those things, Mr. Chafee. You're the one that keeps talking about Goddard Park and letting the prisoners out. I am talking about a very deliberate, careful, excruciatingly painful budget review process that is what a deliberate, a knowledgeable governor would have to do. Making a rash statement right now for a campaign advantage or a campaign ploy is nonsense. This is a very serious process. Every line item in the budget for the state of Rhode Island reflects either a face, a human being, an employee, a program. And until you do a deep dive, until you sit down with the experts who work in each one of these departments, who are the front line with these programs and with the employees, the governor's not going to sit in a corner office and, as Mr. Block may accuse me of, being an ideologue and make those decisions based on ideological basis. It's not. It's going to be a careful budget review process, and it's going to start on November 3rd.
Mr. Chafee?
Early in the show, I said, your lips are moving, but nothing's coming out. That was a perfect example.
Mr. Caprio, your opportunity to ask a question.
Yeah, I'll follow up on the property tax issue in Exeter with Mr. Chafee. Are you familiar with that most of the land that you own in Exeter is under some type of tax break?
No, it's anything that's done there is perfectly legal and in the best interest of the town, or they wouldn't have these programs. They want to keep the town rural, and they have some programs. I'm not sure whether we're in or out of them, but if they're there for a reason. The town wants them there, or they wouldn't have these programs.
So you are familiar with it then?
No, but if you're suggesting that, it's only in the best interest of the town of Exeter.
So from the facts at Town Hall, it says that 700 acres that's in Exeter that you own is taxed at a level of only $2,000 for 700 acres. So to the people listening across the state right now, who their property taxes, I know what mine are, and I know across the state mine are a multiple of 2,000. Do you think it's fair that 700 acres of land, which again is almost as big as some of the towns and cities in our state, is only taxed at $2,000?
I didn't put the program in, as I said, whether it's a forestry program that they want to encourage forestry on the property, but whatever the program is, I didn't put it in, and it's there for all the citizens of Exeter to take advantage of. And if what you're saying is true, then that's in the best interest of the town, as I said.
So to the senior citizen who's sitting in their apartment right now cutting pills in half and wondering if you institute your sales tax increases, how they're even going to get by next month, you think there's no problem with having 700 acres and a tax break that only has you pay $2,000?
Well, the main point here in this campaign is the status of the state of Rhode Island. And Mr. Caprio, you've spent the last 20 years in the State House, 20 long years getting us into this pickle where we have to have seniors cutting pills in half. You're part of the problem in creating this dreadful situation in the state. And I've just got some concrete reasons to help fix it. And I don't like taxes any more than the woman you're describing in her senior citizen's apartment. I do not like taxes any more than any other Rhode Island citizen. But I want to fix the state and get our people back to work, have an honest budget, get our assets working for us, clean up the corruption, and I know the future's bright for Rhode Island.
Mr. Block, I want to give you a chance also. This portion brought to you by Dunkin' Donuts. America runs on Dunkin'. You are not convinced that the train station is something positive. Mr. Chafee was at the train station cutting and feels very strongly about that. You don't feel that that's going to be a big economic development?
To build 50,000 jobs, you got to build a skyscraper the size of the World Trade Center. It's not going to happen at the train station. We need something that's much bigger, something just more systemic, and we need real economic development. Cutting the ribbon at a train station is not economic development. But I have a question. Can I ask a question?
Yes, absolutely.
Because the other thing that people care about besides jobs is education. And education has been very negatively in the news. And I've had two very hard-hitting specific proposals to reform our educational system in terms of renegotiating the contracts, making them white-collar, and teacher assessments, because it's crucially important to make sure that ineffective teachers aren't negatively impacting our kids. I would like to know from each of the candidates a specific thing that you would do to reform education that is not simple support of Commissioner Gist.
Let's start with Mr. Robitaille.
Why would you think that the process that Commissioner Gist is laying out? I mean, she is a pro. She's a highly sought-after leader in the field of education. I think she has a remarkable plan to transform our public education. I don't have that background and experience. I am going to support a winner. I'm going to support someone who has proven that she can do the job.
Mr. Chafee?
I'm a big believer in infrastructure improvements, and as mayor, when the economy came back, we put all that increased revenue back into our school system, particularly in infrastructure. Elementary schools that didn't have an all-purpose room, we finally got those done. One of our high schools, Tollgate High School, still didn't have an auditorium. The band couldn't play. The drama club couldn't meet and put on their place. We finally got an auditorium built. And same as the train station. Infrastructure does support economic development. The facts do support that.
But what
all
about
the studies do show that. So
what
on
about to
education,
Mr. Block's question, though?
On education, just like Nathan Bishop Middle School, you put the money into improving the school, and scores go up.
But with Governor Chafee, Deborah Gist stays. Yes, no, maybe.
I'll talk with her, and we've had lunch recently and shared some thoughts. It's an important position. She's done a lot of good things. We finally have a school formula. Finally, she was the leader on that. She's brought a lot of good energy to education in Rhode Island.
Mr. Caprio.
Yeah, hold the teachers accountable, but listen to the teachers. I think that the best ideas can come out of the classrooms. They're right on the front lines, and we need to have more input from the teachers.
Mr. Robitaille, your opportunity to ask a question.
Oh, another question?
Yes.
Actually, I do have a question. It's a question for Mr. Block. Ken, you have been talking a lot about your software package. What would you do if you were actually elected governor? How would that work? Would you buy the software package from your own company? I mean, how would you implement it? Because I'm very curious about the effectiveness and what you would do.
Well, actually, we don't own it. It's someone else's intellectual property. The state of Texas actually owns it. They own the intellectual property. And the software that I wrote is specific and targeted to food stamp and cash assistance programs, the welfare debit card systems. What I propose doing is taking the general idea of what we did for the state of Texas in those programs and applying it first and foremost to the state Medicaid program. It's a totally different set of software. The approach is the same, but you can't just lay in the software that we developed down there and dump it in there. And the approach needs to be to work through all of the different programs inside of Health and Human Services, systematically looking for waste and fraud in multiple different ways.